They're saying on the news that that Saharan dust is going to come in, which is going to make everyone's allergies
Not again.
bad. Oh well. Looks like we are live.
Oh, I need to quit that. And it's still going. Why is it still going? Whatever. Okay. Alrighty. Oop. Whoops, not quite yet. Full screen this one. And alrighty. All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started on our webinar for today. We will be recording it, so you'll be able to view it afterwards as well on our YouTube channel. So welcome to the Apply Texas College Applications webinar. I'm Erin Mosley. I am the advisor at Mathis High School, and this is...
I am Nathan Schwausch. I'm the 11th and 12th grade advisor for Sinton High School.
Excellent. All right. So there we go. So we're going to go through a few different things during this webinar today, primarily using the Apply Texas application. I do want to give a little bit of a disclaimer here at first that this webinar is going to be a little bit denser, a lot more words on the screen, more in-depth, detailed, just because that's kind of how your applications are going to go. So we're going to focus on a couple things, know how to navigate the Apply Text application and know what sections are required in order to complete an application. If you do have any questions during this presentation, since it is going to be a little bit more dense, feel free to go ahead and type them in chat. That way we can see them and we can answer any of your questions. Okay, so for this webinar, we are going to be using Apply Texas. So Apply Texas, it's the primary application portal for colleges and universities in Texas. Both private and public schools use it, anywhere from 2-year to 4-year schools. If it's in Texas, more than likely it's going to be on Apply Texas. There are a handful that are not. And you'll use alternative application submissions, either Common App or Coalition App, but we'll dive into that at a later date. Today, we're just going to be focusing on Apply Texas because this is the main one that you're going to be using. So to get started, you're going to need to go to applytexas.org. And this is what the screen will look like once you get there. This is what the screens looked like for years now. They haven't changed it. And right down here, you are going to create your account. If you already have it, have one created, then you're just going to log in here. If not, you're going to go through the create your account, and your username, that's just going to end up being your email account. So creating your profile. So whenever you click on create your account, this is where it's going to be taking you. So this is what your profile is going to look like. So it's just entering in kind of your basic demographic information, your name, date of birth, kind of those general questions there. Also, this is a big one. Do not use your school email. So this applies to students essentially everywhere. The email that the school gives you is going to be terminated after you graduate from high school. So you will not have access to that email, meaning you will not have access to your apply texts, to your SAT information, to your college application info. All of that is going to be gone unless you actually use your personal email. So if you don't have one, now is the time to set it up. You're going to be using it essentially throughout senior year and on into the rest of your life. So you might as well go ahead and make a personal, professional email right now. First name, last name, a number if need be. Looks great, you're good. So make sure to use your personal email. So once you've got your profile set up, you're going to be taken to your account dashboard page. So right here, it'll say that you don't have any applications currently and you need to create a new application. So that is what we're gonna do. All right, so to create a new application, you need to figure out if you're wanting to do a 2-year or 4-year application to start. We do recommend that you go ahead and start with a 4-year application just so that you can get all of your information in there. And then later on, and we'll talk about this, but there's a copy and paste feature that makes your life so much easier. So for this process, we are going to be showing the 4-year university undergraduate admissions application. We're going to use this one just because this one requires a bit more information than a 2-year application. So this way you can kind of get to see what the entire application looks like. So then you will be prompted to select a target university. So this is the school that you are wanting to apply to. This little list will drop down. For right now, we're just doing Texas A&M University at Kingsville. And the application type. So this is pretty much going to be universal for y'all, freshman US. You will be entering as freshmen into college and we're in the US. So that is your application type. Your next one is to select your semester of entry. So right here on this drop-down box, it'll give you the option fall, spring. Y'all will be putting in fall of 2021. So not this fall, but next fall. So just remember fall of 2021. And now you're going to be prompted to select a major. So if you don't know what you want to major in, that's okay. But to continue with this application, you're going to need to go ahead and put one down. So it'll usually ask for both a first choice and a second choice major here. With this process, you can research some of the different majors at your school, or if you know what it is, just selecting it from the drop down. And that way you can continue on, you can continue on with your application. And both myself and Mr. S are always here for you if you do want to discuss a little bit more on picking your major. So, quick poll while we're talking about majors. If you have decided on a major, go ahead and drop in the YouTube chat. If you have one and what it is, go ahead and drop it in there. We'll give you a couple minutes to pick it out. Couple minutes, more like 30 seconds. Just kidding. I'm struggling with technology over here. Okay. Alrighty, so we're gonna go ahead and continue on. Nathan, I will turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Aaron. So after we have selected first choice and second choice majors, for example, like on this application, we had our first choice is business administration, second choice, College of Agriculture. The next step is that it's going to ask you to double check that the biographical information that you copied over when you created the account. So in that first step, when you created the account, it asks for your name, date of birth, email. It's going to pop that screen back up, and it'll give you the chance to double check and make sure that information copied over. So for the most part, this information here should be automatically populated from when you created the account, but it's still important to double check that you didn't make any typos or something didn't copy over correctly. So I think if we can go to the next slide. Okay. Same thing. After you have double checked all that information, it'll give you a screen where you have to confirm that your name and date of birth are saved correctly. So just double check that, first name, last name is correct and that the date of birth are correct. So basically it's still just kind of double checking that everything is correct. So nothing too complicated just yet. And then after that is going to take you to the final page or the biographical information page. And this is where you're going to have to enter a little bit of new information. So here at the top, it gives you the option to select any languages other than English that you speak fluently. So language 1, language 2. So say you also speak Spanish, then you would list that you speak the Spanish and that you've spoken that for how many years. If you speak German, how many years you've spoke that, et cetera. And then it's going to ask you for family income as well. So there are different ranges that it lists under family income, 0 to like 30,000, 31,000 to the next range. Just select whatever you think is the most applicable to your family. And then a really important one here, this is one thing that's really important for the purposes of financial aid consideration, and it's one thing that we'll talk about more when we talk about completing financial aid in the FAFSA at a later date, is the number in household, because that would include both yourself and then any siblings that you have in college as well. That's something that financial aid offices will take into account when they're reviewing your financial aid applications to see how much money you may qualify for. And then lastly, it's going to ask you to input some supplemental parent information for one of your parent or guardians. So like mom or dad, put in their first, last name, and then you can click continue or save changes. So this here is a really important part, particularly because you want to make sure that your application matches up to your high school. That makes it easier for your counselors and college advisors to keep track of your application status. And then it's also just an important thing that you want to include on your application, of course, is find your high school. One mistake a lot of students make that I've seen when they're filling out the application is for high school name, they'll just type in the high school name there, like Senton High, and then just continue to the next page. What you really need to do, and what'll make it a lot easier for your school to match up with the application, is make sure you click on that big blue button where it says find your high school. So after you click that button, it should bring you to a screen where you can search your high school. So then you type the name of the high school, it pops up any schools that match the name that you typed in, and then you just check the box that that's the correct one, and then you go on to the next page or go on to the next part.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So like I said, you just search the name of the high school, and then after that, you want to make sure that you input your expected graduation date. So for current juniors or rising seniors, basically you just finished your junior year, you're going to be starting senior year in the fall. Your expected graduation date will be May 2021. So make sure you put that in for your expected graduation date. And then the next question is asking, are you homeschooled? The answer is no, because you go to either Senton or Mathis High School. So obviously you're not homeschooled. because you go to one of those 2 high schools. And then the next section is college or universities. So if you're taking dual credit classes, do the same process like with the high schools, click the Find College or University button, type in, say you're taking dual credit classes through Del Mar College, type in Del Mar, it'll link to Del Mar College, and then you just add the dates down there at the bottom where it says dates of attendance starting from, say you started taking dual credit classes in September of 2018. So September 2018 attended to May 2021, because that would be when you would probably be finishing your last dual credit class as a senior if you're taking dual credit classes. And then list however many hours you've earned at the bottom there. So if you've taken several classes that are 3-hour classes, you might be graduating with anywhere from like 12, 15 to 30 credit hours. Okay.
And if you're ever uncertain, you can ask us to ask about how those credit hours transfer.
Because yeah, that can be a really confusing thing if you're not familiar with how courses are classified as far as how many hours they are and whatnot. All right. Then next, it's going to take you to a page where you can fill in your educational information or continue with your educational information. So the first question is going to ask you if you plan on pursuing a pre-professional program. Those would be like medicine, nursing, veterinary, pre-law. So you would answer yes or no if you're interested. If you're planning to pursue one of those, click yes. And then the second question is asking if you were planning on pursuing a teacher certification. So if you are planning to become a teacher, pursue teacher certification, select yes, then select at which level, middle school, high school, elementary school. Then lastly, this is going to ask you to input your senior course schedule for the whole senior year. So I know a lot of you are probably going to be filling this out in the fall, but what you need to do is make sure that you include classes that you're going to be taking in the spring as well. So if for like these semester-long classes like government or economics, if you're taking economics in the first semester and you're going to be taking government in the second semester, make sure that you check those boxes there that we're pointing at on the screen appropriately. And if you're taking a year-long class like English 4, that's fall and spring semester, you can go ahead and check both of those boxes. And that also includes elective classes as well that you might be taking, like animal science, newspaper, or even like football, track, any of those. And then the next page is going to ask you to check the box next to any of the tests that you've taken, and it's going to ask you to also input the month and year that you took that test. So if your school offered the SAT during the school day in March, you would check the box for that, for the SAT taken, and put that you took it in March of 2020. If you took the test and you still need to send your scores to the school, if you want to send your scores, or if your school is still requiring test scores, I know a lot of schools are making it test optional now. I know UT Austin just announced that today, but if you do want to send your scores, that's something that you'll have to do separately through the College Board or ACT accounts. You don't send your scores through Apply Texas. So if you do need help sending your scores, you can go ahead and ask either Aaron or myself, whichever one of us is your advisor, and we'll help you figure out how to send your scores, okay? And then quick poll, have you created a college list yet? If so, which schools are on your list? So go ahead and take a minute to type those in the chat.
We're in chat. I think it's on this side, maybe on this side. Y'all can find it. I have faith.
Again, we'll just give y'all about 30 seconds to type that in, and then we'll get going again with the presentation.
And I see some great discussion going on over in chat. Some good questions are being asked. So I noticed a couple, just take a pause. Back on one page, there was a question about what is a trimester versus a semester. Semesters, I think that's what both Mathis and Senton run on. That's when you have the fall and the spring, and it's divided in 2. And trimesters are when your year is divided into thirds instead of choose.
That's a good clarification. Yeah.
All right. Let me get one more look. Ooh, I'm seeing some good ones. UTSA, UNT. Good stuff, y'all. Love them all. All right, so gonna continue on these beautiful white screens, heading into residency information. So this question is asking if during the last 12 months, did you attend a public college or university in Texas? This question is trying to determine your residency, but it's only asking if you were a full-time college student within a past year. None of y'all are going to be full-time college students because you're still in high school. So even if you've taken dual credit classes, you're still going to answer no to this question. So everyone should be answering no right here. And then I'll take you to these questions. These will pop up instead. So the first question is going to ask, of what state or country are you a resident? Texas. Do you live or will you have lived in Texas for 36 consecutive months leading up to high school graduation or completion? So have you lived in Texas for 3 years? Typically, yes. When you begin this semester for which you are applying, will you have lived in Texas for the previous 12 months? Here, you're also going to go ahead and click next. And we're going to save and continue. Extracurricular activities. So this is probably the biggest bulk section in Apply Texas. This is where you're actually going to have to enter in every single organization / activity that you've been a part of. So this includes band, sports, clubs, and it's also going to say the weeks, hours per week, and weeks per year. So let's dive into that. So this is just an example one. Picked bands, you were in high school marching band. This is how I would fill it out. So I was in band for 3 years or 4 years. You'll put that there. Activity level, if there is a specific activity level, this can be city, state, district, local, regional. When in doubt, I just put district. That part isn't as specific. But if you were like a part of a national organization or a national team, you can put that on there as well. Positions held, for most things you can put member, especially for sports, like positions held, they're not needing to know that you were a linebacker or something like that. They just want to know that you were participating. Were you elected? So most of the time, this is either going to be no or not applicable. If there was a voting process, say for vice president of an organization, then you can put yes there. Hours per week, this is just going to be on average, how many hours did you spend per week on that activity? So did an example here of 10 and then weeks per year. So we put 36. My general rule of thumb is for a full year, 36 weeks, and for half a year, 18 weeks. Those are just rough estimates of how much time you actually spent on your extracurriculars. Next, you're gonna list your community or volunteer service. So on here, same thing, place of service, description of service, total hours. And if it stretches over multiple years, September 2017, October 2019, be sure to include everything. Talents, honors, and awards. So same thing here, you're gonna put if you received an award, what the description is, what years you've earned that. And so for example here, regional qualifier, level regional. Say it's AB honor roll, that could be local. Same thing, we're gonna move on to the employment information. This section of Apply Texas is really dense. It does give you a couple examples of your job titles and your employer, weeks or hours per week, when did you start, when did you end that job, Specific job role or title, this is not where you worked, this is what you did. So if you sacked groceries, or if you were shelf stocking, anything like that, that's where you'll put that. And then hours per week and on through. And if you have a job currently, you'll just bring it up to that day. So if I was filling it out today, I would bring it through June 2020. So that is quite a bit of information. We'll just take one more pause to see if we have any other questions that we would like to address in chat. I'm seeing on here, yes, make sure that you are writing down pretty much all things that you've been interacting on, or like activities, clubs, organizations. Go ahead and start writing that down. I do see a quick question here of, can I count babysitting? Yes, go ahead and count babysitting. That is an actual job. Record that on there. Looks good. Perfect. So we will continue with the last part.
All right. So we're in the home stretch here. After you finish the extracurricular employment history informations, there's going to be a section for custom institutional questions. For example, like, is your parent a A&M Kingsville alumni? That might be similar questions with other institutions. So answer those questions. Answer that question. Then next.
Sorry.
You're fine. You might have the option to like opt into text messaging from your school. So if that gives you the option, I recommend that you opt into that, because then you can be receiving updates from the college or university that you're applying to. Then it will ask you whether you've been convicted of a crime of violence or sexual misconduct. Answer yes or no, and save and acknowledge that question. And then here is everybody's favorite part. If you're applying to some universities, you may have the option or be required to submit an essay. For example, like UT Austin, A&M, College Station have requirements that you submit the essay topic A. Texas State or UTSA also have it listed as optional. But if you want to be considered for scholarships, you still definitely need to submit that essay. So highly, highly recommend you submit the essays to any schools that have it listed as optional. And just a little plug, we're going to be having another webinar in July on college essay writing, where we'll talk specifically in depth on each of these prompts. So be sure to mark that on your calendars and come to that. So when you click edit topic A, it'll give you the option to copy and paste your essay into that topic. So then once you've done that, you can move on. And then basically you just check a bunch of boxes certifying that basically you're agreeing to follow all the university's rules if you're accepted, and be a good kid, basically. And then the bottom asks you for reverse transcript. If you want your transcript to be shared with any schools that you've previously attended, answer yes or not applicable. And then you can go on to the next page. It'll give you the option to either pay for your application fee if your school has an application fee, or if you qualify for a fee waiver, you can go see either me or Miss Mosley, or talk to your high school counselor, and they can get you some kind of documentation for a fee waiver, so you don't have to pay that application fee. If you're eligible for a fee waiver, each school has different requirements for what they'll accept for a fee waiver. So just talk to us or your high school counselor. And then once you are done, you just check the box next to the text saying that once you submit your application, you cannot unsubmit it. And then you hit submit now, and then you are all good to go on your application. And
Yay!
You made it. So after you're done, on your application dashboard that we showed you at the beginning, it'll show you any applications that you have submitted. I forgot to include a screenshot. So right next to that you've submitted, there's a button that says copy. So you can just click that copy button. You can copy your completed application to an application for another school. Click through, make sure everything copied over correctly, and then you're done. So you can apply to, once you do one, you can apply to a bunch of others. So
Nathan, sorry to cut you off. We are running very short on time. So what I'm going to be doing, these are email addresses here. You've got those. We're going to be hosting a webinar, and I am going to drop into the chat a little link for you to fill out. Fill that out and definitely include any questions that we didn't get to. That way we can get you all the good information, and we'd love to know who all was here for our webinar. So thank you all so much for joining us. So sorry that we're running super short on time, but thank y'all.